So this video is going to be a little different than some of the normal videos I'll be recording, which will focus on education. But it is March of 2024, and I just wrote this list about 2024 election stocks, complete list for investors. And if you scroll down on my blog here, you're going to see all of the research that I did about companies to watch as the election nears. And so this video is going to go through that list, and it's also going to tell you why I made the list. But most importantly, I think probably what you want to keep in mind is I'm going to be updating this list throughout the year. So if you, for example, were watching this video a few months from now, make sure you go check out this blog, click the refresh page, because I'm going to be updating this all year with new information. So the first thing I want to say about this list, which I think is really important, is oftentimes people will ask me what I think is going to happen in an election. And the thing I must say about that is, well, what are the markets saying? And essentially, I've been born and raised in the markets. It's what I've been doing since I graduated college and got my first job and started building tech products specifically for financial markets. So I've been deep in markets for a while, seeing all aspects, whether it's back office, front office, professional traders, retail traders, just all in between, all of it, really. And so on that note, oftentimes what happens is that markets are a forward-looking machine. There's some videos on my profile about this, but essentially investors and traders are betting on what's going to happen in the future. Past data is helpful to sort of spot trends if that's what you're looking for an uptrend. Well, past data gives you that. But at the end of the day, we're trying to look forward at what might happen and make the best decision on those future outcomes. And that's what markets are doing with elections, by the way. They are pricing in new pieces of information by the minute. There's a lot of smart people, now a lot of computer programs, also now it's global, who are looking at markets and trying to place trades or make investments in these markets based on what might happen in the future. And so the list I've created here covers some of the equities that I'm watching as the election picks up. Now, what's really important about this list is that, this is probably one of the more important things about this list, is that it's not a, what's the word I want to say, obvious list. Some of these names, sure, some of you are going to know right away, but a lot of these names I tried to go a little deeper on. So I'm not just writing about how Apple could benefit or Amazon. We already know all that. These companies get enough coverage. I'm trying to find TPI Composites. Have you heard of that company? My guess is potentially not. Or Ballard Power Systems, BLDP. This is the point of the list. I am going for the covert opportunities. I'm going for the political power plays. I am looking for the mega stealth election pick. So what are the companies no one's paying attention to at this time that in the future could see a big boost? Going back to the start of this video, it's all about trying to predict what might happen in the future. So that's the background on this list. So now you know how to look at it, how to think about it. And actually, I do want to give you an example as well about this list. I've just highlighted it on my blog post so you can really think deeply about this. So there's a company called Black Rifle Coffee Company. You've probably heard of it. They are essentially the opposite of Starbucks, because whereas Starbucks is sort of this, get cozy in, Starbucks, you get cozy in the coffee shop and listen to some nice casual music and have a latte, maybe steam some milk. Black Rifle Coffee is 100% the opposite of that. They are wildly right-wing. They are almost positive they claim that. Maybe they're a little more tough, you could say. I think that if I'm correct here, the company is founded by ex-Marines. I think that's right. Ex-Marines would be my guess. Yeah, veteran founded. I'm looking at their website. I'm actually going to pull it up now just to make sure that you can see a difference here in this company. So this is Black Rifle Coffee Company. They're publicly traded. They're making Fool's Gold coffee. Look at these bags with the camouflage coffee or dye, right? It's a way different brand. American flags. It's a way different brand than, say, let's just do Starbucks. Let's just take a look. I mean, look at the difference. Holy cow. Look at this. I mean, we just went from Welcome Lavender, cream oat milk, Welcome Lavender, and now we're back to like American flag. So you get the point, right? And so this is what the list I'm making is all about, is where can you spot these opportunities? How can you think about them? And Black Rifle Coffee Company is actually one that I think you have to have at the top of your list. If a Republican is going to take the election, if Republicans gain even more, say, advantages or start to really take off, I mean, you have to assume that that means the country is moving a little further right. This company, Black Rifle Coffee Company, kind of embodies that right now. And that might help their sales, going back to the point at the start of this video, in the future. And so that is how you should be thinking about this list. Now, I will admit the chart does not look great here. Been in a downtrend for some time, has not gone up for some time, but I just want to have some fun one more time because that was pretty interesting just to see the difference between the two websites. I didn't plan that at all. That just happened on this recording. Let's just look at their apparel. Let's see what happens. Let's see what they got here from their apparel. I mean, come on, Black Rifle. Let's see, all the camouflage, more American flags. You can just sense it, right? Look at these two guys. I mean, do those look like Starbucks drinkers to you? Now let's go to Starbucks. Welcome Lavender. All right, look at these people just enjoying a little few fancy drinks with their lollipops. It's truly incredible to see the difference, actually. And now that is the point of the list. And so I'm going to go through the list in detail, so if you want to stick around a little bit longer, let's do it. So my personal favorite is Bandwidth. I should disclose too, I'm all about transparency in markets. I have traded this stock a number of times. I have held positions before. I may or may not be holding a position at the time you're watching this. So always do your own research. This isn't financial advice. But Bandwidth is one of my personal favorites, without a doubt. There's just no question about it. Now, a lot of people don't know about Bandwidth, and I'm just going to open up the chart here. It's had a really rough time. I'm going to quickly tell you what Bandwidth does in a second. I mean, that chart's not pretty. Anyone who's been in markets for a long time knows that that is a euphoric boom, right? Everyone thinks of the tulips and then just a devastating crash. How is it ever going to come back? Well, maybe it got ahead of itself on either side of this up and down slope. There's probably a more, in my opinion, a more fair value, perhaps in this 40 range, at least taking it back to its IPO prices. But the reason why Bandwidth is at the top of my list is because of what they do. So Bandwidth is a provider of automated phone calls, automated text messages. They connect people through the telephone. They are the ones who are building, should say, the modern telephone. When you're on Zoom, when you get an automated text message from a company, when you are, even now, I guess now on Microsoft Teams too, when you are calling a call center at one of these companies, it's most likely going through Bandwidth. Now, okay, this may not, DocuSign probably doesn't have anything to do with the election, but where this does have something to do with the election is that you can do automated phone calls and text messages through Bandwidth. So it's actually similar to Twilio. A lot of you have probably heard of Twilio, TWLO. In fact, they have similar charts. Twilio could be considered another election play. It's another option for you. I prefer Bandwidth though, because actually when you look into it, Bandwidth is oftentimes the underlying service that even Twilio is just reselling. So Bandwidth actually has its own network, and it doesn't run on Verizon, it doesn't run on AT&T, it has its own network in the country. So you can use its network to send, say, a mass political text message out to tons of subscribed text messages, or get on the phone and make quick calls across the country or in key counties to tell people to go out and vote, or hear who are you voting for, gather data, census data. Bandwidth is really my number one play for that, but there's a bigger reason why. So I walked you through all that, and I could go even more into the fundamentals, which perhaps I'll do in another video. But the reason why this stock is on the top of my list and even more so than some of the other companies that you see, is because it wins no matter who wins, because both sides are going to use bandwidth to try to win the election and get their message out. So if you think that if you want to be Switzerland in this election and trade in markets while the election's going on, I really think that companies like Bandwidth and Twilio are just the best way to play it. You don't even have to have a horse in the race, as they say, because these companies will be used by both sides. They have one mandate: get a phone call, get a text message, get a message out. And as long as they do that mandate, they're going to be used by both sides of the political parties, or maybe there's even a third or fourth political party that might use them. So I find that to be rather tempting, to know that you don't have to bet on a binary outcome if you're trying to play the election in markets. There are companies that win either way. In fact, if you go read Bandwidth's latest earnings report, which we could probably do right now, we might not be able to find it, or even Twilio's earnings report, we'll go to the investor relations page, what you'll most likely find is you'll find that they even mention the election a number of times in their latest earnings report. I listened to their Q4 call, and in their Q4 call, they mentioned the election a few times, and they raised guidance as well. Let's just see, okay, so they didn't mention the election in this press release, but it's in the conference call here. I listened to the conference call, and it's mentioned a number of times. But let's keep going, because I've only made it through two companies so far: Black Rifle Coffee Company and Bandwidth. But ideally, if you've stuck around this long, you now understand some interesting ways to play the election. Keep in mind, always do risk management. This is never advice. I don't know how many times I have to say that. Just, I'll have plenty more videos here. This is for research, education, entertainment, all those good things, just not advice. Digital World Acquisition Group. This one's just hilarious to me. I'm sorry. I'm a Twitter user. I do like YouTube. This company is particularly hilarious, though, because it is Trump's Twitter account, basically. He's gone off Twitter, and now he uses Truth Social, which is owned by Digital World Acquisition Group. And actually, it's pretty interesting to see TradingView here. This is as some of you probably know me from TradingView. 5 years at TradingView, building educational tools, getting the data global. It's actually just hilarious, actually, once again, another coincidence on this, to head over to Trump's Digital World Acquisition Corp and see TradingView right there. Wasn't expecting that. That's fascinating. But nevertheless, if you go to Truth, I've actually never been to this website, so we can do this together. This is a live reaction. Truth Social. Okay, is America's big tent. Not really. I'm not knocking anyone here, just the big tent. It's a very interesting way to say it. Long story short, that's another way to play the election. If this is where Trump is, then obviously it's going to benefit if he wins, because if he wins, he's not going to use any other platform but Truth Social. So he's basically going to be telling the whole population, if you want to get updates from me, you got to go to Digital World Acquisition Corp. And that is that's not something I had in my bingo card to consider yet. So keep that in mind as well. Trades $41 a share. In fact, I mean, come on. That's got to open your eyes up. Let's see what happens here, people. But since the start of the year, this company is up. Let's see here. It's up 136%. Well, hopefully we watch this video in a year or so, and this might tie back into exactly what I was talking about at the start, which is that the market's a betting machine on the future. Let's see where this goes as the election cycle kicks up. Add this one to your watch list. I don't plan on trading this one because I prefer my first few picks that I already mentioned, like a Twilio or a Bandwidth, because they're neutral territory investments in this case. I don't really want to bet on one outcome or another. But as you can see here is its market cap. It's $1.5 billion. That is that's actually a pretty big company for a social network. Actually, if you want to do your research, you just compare it to Snapchat. Snapchat's 18 billion, so there's kind of maybe your benchmark if you think this thing could really take off. Let's keep going. We talked about Black Rifle Coffee Company. Now we're going to get into a few more, and I'm going to move faster because now we're nearing the sort of back half of the video. I don't want to make this video that long. I just wanted to make sure you know how to think about this, some interesting plays, and to start looking. FLR here, this is an interesting one because it's got to do a lot with the border. Some of these engineering and construction firms, I'm going to be doing a lot more research into this. Once again, if you think one political party might build a wall, might commit more resources to the border, there are some construction companies that you're going to want to keep your eyes on. Concrete, steel, anyone who specializes in that. We've got Axon Enterprises. They are law enforcement. I think we know that there are sort of different positions on law enforcement. It's another way you can play the election. There is Oshkosh, which is pretty interesting. They are building electric vehicles for the USPS. Everyone has our own opinion on the USPS, but different political parties are striving to turn their fleet electric, and maybe one party might extend their contract or not. Canopy Growth, marijuana. That is an interesting one. This stock has been absolutely crushed. I'm sure some of you have seen this. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Down 90%. Let's just focus on this one. Yeah, I mean, depending on where you start, 99%. But it is an interesting play from a political party standpoint if you think one party might change regulation and legalization around pot if they get in or stay in. So you can have those on your radar if you catch something in the news about that. Now, there are going to be some energy stocks that I have on here, but specifically related to solar. I'll have some oil stocks coming as well. Enphase is a fascinating one because it really powers the solar boom. It builds a key component to solar panels. ChargePoint, trying to build a global charging network. Keep in mind, some of these stocks are really speculative. As I have to say again, always do your own research. Canopy's down a ton. I think it might have a lot of debt or it's burning money. ChargePoint down a ton. I think it might have a lot of debt, burning money. But the point is, these are very obscure companies that have sort of fallen out of the limelight. Maybe you've forgotten about them, but they're building, and maybe there's a political party who knows, they could initiate a new law. Maybe they have a new contract out. One of these companies wins the contract. Maybe they pass legislation that benefits these companies and turns them around. So yes, they're down a lot. Yes, they might have bad fundamentals, but there's an element of this of, well, what's possible here for a turnaround story for them if one party wins? Very risky stuff, by the way. I don't have a holding in ChargePoint or Enphase or Canopy, but they're interesting. They're on my watch list. And then, of course, there are defense contractors. And you might want to keep your eyes on defense contractors if there are global wars going on. Who exactly is more about supporting wars, right? There are different governments who have different hawkish or dovish views on wars. These companies really, at the end of the day, benefit from wars. Lockheed Martin, let's just see in the last year, it's actually down. That's pretty fascinating. I wasn't expecting that. They're up 38% in the last 5 years. But look at this over the last, since the 1990s, up 1,600%. You're going to want to just basically know which party supports more government funding, because actually that's another important thing about defense contractors if you're looking to play the election. What happens if the party that wins is in favor of cutting the budget toward the military or toward defense? Right now, one of the government's biggest expenses is defense and military, and that money eventually trickles back into some of these long contractors. So if a new president comes in and changes that and starts cutting costs or reduces the budget, these companies just simply will not be able to keep up with their revenue growth because the government is potentially feeding them a significant percentage of their revenue. So you could maybe play some sort of short play if you think the next political party or president is going to cut that. Now I want to move into what I'm calling the political power plays. The reason why I'm calling this the political power plays is because of the size of the companies, the history or connection. So The first part of my list is looking for stealth picks like Bandwidth. I think that one's really stealth, under $1 billion market cap, does projected to do 700 million plus in revenue. Not widely known. From what I've experienced using it, I use it at a number of endpoints. Excellent product, but I don't see anyone talking about it. Very few people even know what they do. They've been around for 20 years. They're CEO and founder led. But nevertheless, that's what this list attempts to be, the first part. And then the second part, the political power plays, is a little bit bigger, more widely known. You've probably heard of them before. Palantir is, that SaaS product for defense, just consuming tons of data to monitor or track potential threats in and around the country. I think Palantir is probably the single largest SaaS product in defense. I can't imagine anything's bigger. Palantir does sort of concern me though a tad, just because it's kind of like a spying eye. They probably got profiles on air. I don't know. It's bizarre. Some people absolutely love this stock. I think it's a little creepy, but in fact, speaking of websites, let's just look at their website and let's just see what are they claiming they do these days. AI powered operations. All right, that's cool. Maybe they're okay. There you go. They're your drones. Yeah, here are their products. Foundry. I'd have to look into this a little more. That's Foundry. What else? Gotham. What is Gotham? Huh. Anyways, a large chunk of their business is selling to government. Multi-layered security must be something totally different. But that's the point of this list. It's larger companies, because Palantir does have I think a $20 billion market cap. Let's see here. Oh my gosh, $60 billion market. So Palantir has a $60 billion market cap. Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, those are both massive defense companies. Lockheed Martin, what's its market cap? 110 billion. So it's 110 billion. So that's the point of this list here. First Solar, more of a traditional solar stock. Now the covert opportunities. We're going to end up here on the list. Hopefully you've definitely learned something new from this chat that I'm doing here. The covert opportunities is my attempt now to sort of try to find something that you just have never thought of before, never looked at before, and are going to want to dive in on. So IRDM here, satellite communications. We've seen some of the space race going on. There's the element of SpaceX now. There's lots of investment coming into the space sector. I think I'm going to expand on this a lot more, because depending on which political party does get involved, the space sector could get a boost. And this is, if Trump is in the race, he started the Space Force, I believe. Maybe he's going to invest more there, and that money, similar to LMT, eventually trickles in to these companies. So if you're if you're looking forward to the future and trying to prepare for something, that is what you can eventually look forward to. Although this stock is definitely not looking great at the moment, but as mentioned, that's kind of the point, is maybe there's a catalyst on the horizon that turns this around, and an event as big as the election could potentially offer that. And I'm not going to go through the rest of this list because I've already hit my time limit. And just based on some of the data I've gathered, most people don't hang around the whole 10, 15 minutes. But I will potentially make a part 2 in the coming days, especially as some of you watch this, get up to speed, and maybe ask questions in the comments, or follow me on Twitter or somewhere else around the social web. And I'll just keep updating this as the year goes on. My goal is to really make literally the ultimate 2024 election stock list. I want to do it better than anyone else. I've seen web articles for years now. I don't think anyone does it that good. No one really cares. They're just trying to get clicks. They're selling ads. It's a quick copy paste. I'm trying to dive deep. I am trying to put companies on this list that you've never heard of, and I'm trying to find something here that might offer an opportunity that most other people are missing. It's not just Apple or Amazon, we're trying to go a little bit deeper here. And then, of course, lastly, I am going to share my political thoughts. So, as people follow me around, I think most of you have probably followed me on Twitter for the longest point of time. I'm I rarely ever talk about politics, but I'm going to get a little more involved this election only because I have some interesting thoughts to share. Not divisive, not not picking one side or the other, but I do think I have some interesting things to share. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching, and this list is only going to update as the year goes on. So stay tuned. Keep coming back to this link. It's in the bio below. It's on my website, and I will see you all around.